Hi everyone, my name's Tim Page from Music to My Ears project, part of Catch 22 Surrey. I'll be moderating the workshop for today, Lockdown or Locked Up, and thanks for joining us. A few quick housekeeping notes. The session is 45 minutes long and we'll be sticking to that time as closely as we can. During the event, if you have any questions for the speakers, please ask these in the sessions Q&A on the right-hand side of your screen, but ensure that it's in the sessions tab, not the event tab. Otherwise, everybody in the whole event will read it. I'll ask questions of the speakers at the end of the session, if we have time. If you'd like to have your question live on screen, you can ask to share your audio and video and I'll bring you up on screen again if there's time. You can also use the thumbs up icon to upvote questions if it's something that you're keen to ask too. If you'd like to follow up on a question, please preface the question with the words follow up. I'm now delighted to introduce our speakers for the day. It's my wonderful team, Ryan Karter, Jamie Linney and Mary Grimes from Music to My Ears.
Morning, thank you very much, Tim, for that introduction. Welcome to all of you to our presentation, which is called Locked Down or Locked Up, Preventing Young People's Involvement in Crime During a Period of Heightened Isolation. So here is the content of our presentation we have for you this morning. So first of all, we have myself, Ryan Karter. I'm going to be giving you an introduction to our service. I'm going to be talking about what is MTME, which stands for Music to My Ears. And I'm going to be talking to you about the project aims and methodology of how we go about delivering our service. Next, I'm going to be handing over to Jamie Linney, who you should see at the bottom of your screens. Please give us a wave, Jamie. Jamie's going to be talking about the impact of COVID-19 on our service delivery throughout the pandemic. He's going to be talking to you about how we use music and social media, and particularly how we've had to adjust our service delivery and work remotely. Last but not least, we have Mary Grimes, who you should also see at the bottom of your screen. Give us a wave, Mary. Thank you. And she's going to be talking to us about the links between music and culture. We have got an exclusive interview with grime producer Zim Zimmer. And finally, we're finishing with an interview with a current service user who's going to be talking about how COVID-19 has affected him and young people in general. So I am very pleased to start off with a short little video. It's about a couple of minutes long. And if you bear with me, I will just get this ready and queued up. So this video is about our service and should give you a little bit of an introduction.
Music to My Ears is a youth diversion project for young people aged 11 to 18. The service uses music and creative arts to divert at-risk young people who have emotional and well-being issues away from the criminal justice system. Support sessions are delivered in non-traditional settings like music studios, community centres and rehearsal rooms, so that young people feel empowered to engage with our service. We focus on music creation and songwriting to start a dialogue with young people. One-to-one mentoring with young people to identify their needs. Health, family, education and employment. The service aims to provide a safe space for creative expression, mentoring these young people towards better emotional health and increased life choices, and giving young people the power to succeed.
Okay, so that was an introductory video on our service made by the wonderful and very talented Jamie Linney, who's going to be talking to you again shortly. So now back to my presentation. If you bear with me 1 second, we will get that back on the screen. Wonderful. Okay, so as that pops up, there we go. About MTME, that stands for Music to My Ears. What is MTME? MTME is a youth project which works with young people between the ages of 11 and 18 who are currently involved in the criminal justice system, or they are at risk of becoming involved in the criminal justice system, and who also have emotional or mental health needs. When the service was first launched back in 2017, we originally used music as a hook to engage these young people, because most of these young people found music, the idea of recording and being able to produce their own music, a really exciting prospect. And we use that as a hook tool to engage the hard to reach young people. But as the service has developed, we've expanded to include a whole variety of creative arts, including things such as art, broadcast, filmmaking, photography, and also as we've delivered workshops, we've included sports and team building activities. We're funded by the NHS and we deliver throughout the entire county of Surrey, and we have 4 full-time workers. So what are the aims behind our service? We aim to understand why is it that there's such a disproportionate amount of young people who have identified emotional and mental health problems are ending up involved in crime, and also why is it that these young people are so susceptible to becoming exploited by gangs, by older people who are tempting them to become involved in child criminal exploitation. And ultimately the aim of our service is to raise awareness and reduce the number of people who are offending and to prevent them from reoffending. Right now, the link between mental health and criminality isn't fully understood. We know that young people who become involved in the criminal justice system with mental health and emotional needs, they are less likely to want to engage with services that are seen as authority figures. So for example, ourselves, youth services, social services, education, employment. There's a lot of distrust around anyone or any service they might see as an authority figure. And that really I see as our job, is to try and kind of broker that trust and encourage young people to see us as helpful and able to empower them rather than as a threat or someone to be distrusted. So how do we do that? The real sort of hook of our service is developing a service that's credible, making it appealing, making it attractive. That's what's going to give us a better chance of these young people engaging with us. It's really about building trust and making sure it's a credible service that they really want to choose to invest in. Then we found that once we've got the relationship with them, they are then able to access education, access our partner agencies such as children's services, mental health support. This then improves their trust in the police, employment and other services. And in fact, many of our referrals actually come through these partner agencies such as Surrey Police, Surrey Children's Services, schools, education, college and services like this. It's worth pointing out, we're not a clinical service. We are entirely voluntary. Young people engage with us because they want to, because they choose to. It's non-statutory, so there's no sanction or punishment or anything like that if they don't engage. They do it because they choose to. So why music? For us, it was a fairly obvious solution. It's very difficult to find a young person who doesn't have some form of interest in music, whether it's listening, writing, composing. And it's such a great way of enabling young people to express themselves. Many young people see their genre of music as kind of their identity. And often they use lyrics to express themselves, convey their emotions in ways that talking just wouldn't be able to. And from my own experience, I've been a youth worker for 12 years. I found that enabling a young person to write their own lyrics, to rap or sing. It's interesting how sometimes I can meet a new young person who's really shy, might be distrusting to begin with, but then you put a microphone in front of them and say, look, rap, freestyle, tell me what it is that's going on in your life. And it's almost like they transform into a different young person. And suddenly we're getting this dialogue and we're finding out what is it that they're interested in. And that's such a great way of just getting this instant insight into their minds and finding out what is it that's going on. Okay, so one of the things that really kind of underpins the way that we work with young people is what's called a trauma-informed approach, or you might also have heard it called trauma-informed care. So this is about recognizing that the vast majority of young people that come to us will have experienced some form of trauma or a traumatic event early on in their life in childhood. So this might be a form of abuse. It might be, for example, the loss of a parent or loved one. It might be that their parents are split up and divorced. And we found that what happens in young people's childhood often has a huge impact on how things turn out for them the rest of their lives. Particularly, we've noticed that they tend to respond differently to factors such as anxiety, to stress, and their coping mechanisms might not necessarily be very healthy or very helpful. So what we do is we use these 5 key principles. You can see I've taken this slide here from the charity 70/30. And if you look just left of center, we've got 5 key principles. And I just want to go through those quickly. So underpinning our practice, we've got, first of all, we've got safety. So we always make sure that the sessions are delivered in a safe environment. So these tend to take place as an outreach service in youth centres, in schools, sometimes in people's homes, sometimes outdoors in a park or a playground. And it's really important we have that safe environment. And as an outreach service, we go to them. And that's a great way of reducing barriers to ensure that young people have maximum chance to engage. Second one is trust. So it's really important. I would say that's probably the most important thing that we do, is that we have a trusting relationship. Once young people feel they can trust us in a confidential environment, that is what really underpins the success. Third one is choice. So making sure that young people choose and set the agenda for their care. We don't tell them what they're going to do in the session. They tell us what they want to do. Is it going to be making a song? Is it going to be just having a chat and venting to a youth practitioner about what's going on in their life? And they can do that in this trusted, confidential environment. And that might be just the thing they need to get them through the day. Collaboration. So as I've mentioned before, we collaborate with a lot of partner agencies. So this is involving all of the family. So mum, dad, brothers, sisters. We're involving partnership agencies, social workers, their schools, CAMS, which stands for the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, and trying to make sure we've got this wraparound holistic approach. And finally, empowerment. So making sure that young people are really investing in what it is that they do, and ensuring that they are the ones who are making the positive choices. We're not telling them to do it. They're the ones choosing to make positive changes in their lives. And that itself is very empowering and very powerful. So one of the things that we're very keen to promote is both resilience and recovery. It's really important we are promoting tools of resilience and ensuring that young people are developing these healthy strategies for coping with the ups and downs. And that's something I put across to every young people I work with. I say life is a series of challenges. And it's really important that we help them develop these skills to recover, and in order to equip them with the tools and skills they need to deal with life. So they've got these healthy strategies, and they're not necessarily having this fight or flight or freeze response to stresses in life. And again, that is kind of a lifelong skill, so that once they leave our service, they're then equipped to do that. Okay, how do we measure our outcomes? So there's a number of different ways in which we do this. So we use outcome stars. So some of you might be familiar with, some of you not. So I've got an example of one here. It's a great visual way of tracking change over time. So if you see in the middle, we've got the orange star, which is showing where the service user was when they began with. And then you can see the green star, which is where they were a few weeks or a few months later. And if you see this shift how the star has expanded outwards on these different points, that's a really great way of actually visually representing the change and the journey they've been on. The songs, the videos, all of the creative output they do, some of the work that the young people we've had in the service have been blown away by the quality and the talent, particularly the really thought-provoking lyrics they put in terms of putting out a positive message, how they want to change their lives. Every young person who comes into our service is also given a care plan. So we give them up to 3 goals that we decide on together. And that's a great way of having accountability in what we do, in what we deliver, and making sure that we've got something to work towards and ensuring that our sessions are structured and we've got a goal-oriented approach. We also make sure that we have onward destinations. So that means that once young people have finished working with us, we won't just leave them and abandon them. We make sure that they are referred on to another appropriate service. So that might be something such as re-engaging back into education. It might be an apprenticeship, or it might be that they need more specialist intervention, something more clinical that we're not able to provide. So for some young people, it might be going to a specialist residential care setting, or it might be going for a more therapeutic session because we've identified something in working with them and we think, well, actually, we think you'd be brilliant working with this service because they offer a skill set that's really going to help set you up to succeed. So finally, just focusing on some statistics, if you look in the bottom left, we have found that 88% of the young people that come into our service leave with a positive closure. So that's a really great statistic. 90% of the young people who work with us will go on to a positive onward referral, as I've just mentioned. And finally, 75%, we have a 75% reduction in offending while these young people are in service. So even though we might be working with them with a relatively short space of time, weeks or a few months, 75% of these people are having a significant reduction in their offending while they're in our service. And that's a statistic I'm personally very proud of since working with Music to My Ears over the past 4 years. Okay, now we're going to return back to Jamie Linney, who has put together another wonderful video about how we have adapted our service to work with young people remotely during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm just going to, if you'll bear with me, get his video here, and I'm just going to pop that in. And here's Jamie.
Hi guys, my name's Jamie and I'm one of the project workers working for Catch-22's project Music to My Ears, based in Surrey. I've been working with this project for just over a year now, started last March, and I've come from a music production and therapeutic background. Since going into lockdown last March, we've had to change how we deliver our service. So we've moved to a lot more video calls and phone calls so we can still reach out to our young people. We've also set up our own YouTube page and our own Instagram page, which you can find at MTME22, and that is an online learning platform to allow young people to access music, songwriting tips and tutorials, short videos, tips of the day, and it's a place where they can still learn about music production even if we're not in the room with them. The ultimate aim with our Instagram page is to give the clients something to kind of look at in between sessions. So even if they can't make the session that day, or they can't meet you in person that day, they still have something to access and they can consume some kind of learning content. Another aim going forward is we want to make it more of like a showcase of the young people's successes, and we'll have a SoundCloud link on our Instagram page showcasing all of the songs that we've done, and it will have a shareable link so the young people can share it with their family and friends, and hopefully that will give them a bit of a sense of achievement and want them to continue to engage with the service and carry on making music. A big goal of ours is also to unlock the potential in the young person, to give them the facilities and create an environment where they feel safe enough to be able to be creative, and then you can kind of unlock a side of them that they didn't really know they had, and that can ultimately lead to them going down a better path and a more positive path.
A software we recommend as a good starting point is BandLab, which is completely free and available on any device from phones to tablets and computers. Everything you need to record a cover song or an original song is in this software, which breaks the stigma of needing a fancy studio to record good music. When we record our young people in person in our one-to-ones, we often use GarageBand or Logic, and the sessions look something like this.
One of the greatest things about music production software, Logic Pro, Ableton, is they're incredibly accessible and affordable for kids now. Anyone that has a laptop or an iPad is making a beat whenever they want to at whatever age, and that's awesome. To me, the most pared down version of a studio is just a microphone and a computer. You can even use like the actual keys as like controls. Like you can play like a whole part on the keys themselves. So you can do a lot with just a laptop.
Music to me is very cathartic. There's definitely a release when I write and when I play. It really is, it's so therapeutic. It helps me so much. I could be feeling so stressed out and so under pressure, and I can pick up the guitar and sit at the piano even for like 10 minutes, and it releases all of that. Having a bond, having a connection with something is what gives me my happiness. Being able to nurture and love something and watch it grow, there's no better feeling.
Okay, and thanks to Jamie there, who also made that wonderful video. And if you bear with me 1 second, I'll just get the screen back on. Okay, so you should all be able to see that. So yeah, obviously during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have really had to adapt how we've worked with our young people. And often that's meant doing it through video calls or just through the telephone. And we've had to, massively use our social media platforms. But we have still been able to use technology to enable young people still to write songs, still to engage with us. And then as we've gradually opened up, we've done some more kind of outdoor visits as well. But we would have struggled without this technology. Okay. And finally, we're going to show you a video now of Mary Grimes, who's going to be talking about the link between music and youth culture, featuring an exclusive to MTME interview with grime producer Zim Zimmer. And finally, finishing an interview with A, who is a current service user. He's going to be talking about the journey that he's been on and how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected him. So if you bear with me 2 seconds, I will just get that video ready.
Hi, I'm Mary, and my segment will be focusing on the impact COVID-19 has had on the music industry and how it affects young people. I work for the Music to My Ears project as a project worker. In addition to that, I also host a radio show for community radio station Cane FM, and I try to link the two aspects of work together whenever possible, which has resulted in a great partnership between the two organisations. I also use my radio presence to share young artists' music, which sometimes is created by the young people from the Music to My Ears project. We use all forms of media in the sessions with our young people, but often these sessions will be music focused, hence the name Music to My Ears. COVID-19 hasn't changed this. In fact, it has given young people more time to focus on the music. And throughout the past year, I have done my absolute best to help them with this. On my radio show, I play rap music, specifically British rap music, such as grime and drill. My rap music knowledge comes in handy because often these are the genres the young people on our project listen to. With all music genres, but especially rap music, there are so many different kinds of people who all have different opinions, views, and experiences with that genre. So I want to ensure you get to see the music industry from multiple perspectives. You've heard mine. Now I want you to hear it from a professional music producer. My first guest is UK grime music producer Zim Zimmer. Hello.
Hey, how you doing? You good, yeah?
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. It's getting warmer. That's a good thing, isn't it? So
it is. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
For those who aren't totally aware what the role of a music producer is, could you give me a little summary of what your work involves?
Yeah, sure. So me being a music producer, I simply take a load of instruments. I play piano, I play a bunch of other instruments. We program them into a DAW, which is called a digital audio workstation. We layer them together and we arrange them into what's called a song. I work with MCs and rappers, sometimes singers, in particular MCs. And then what happens is you get an MC in and then he listens to the beat. We call it a beat. He listens to the sort of production that I've produced, different sounds, different synths, different instruments that I've put together to be and arranged into a song. And then what he vocals on top of it. And then we have a full-fledged song. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what I do. So, yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I introduced you as a grime music producer.
Yep.
In today's conference, we have participants and guests from all across Europe, some of whom may not have ever heard of grime or drill music. How would you describe the two?
Grime music is a UK sound, developed, born and bred and raised and matured here in the UK. From the streets of London all the way through to the Midlands. It's a blend of jungle, hip hop, and mainly garage music. It started off as you had like the garage raves or the club scenes. Back then it was all about the garage DJs and the producers, and the MCs would come, microphone controllers or master of ceremony rappers. They would come up, they would rap, and then that would make the DJ look good. And what they found was it was all about the DJ and the producer, not so much of the MCs. And what the MCs did was they were looking for a sound to kind of tailor to their voice. And so they decided to take garage and make a darker version of it and sort of create a bit of space in there for their vocals. And that's pretty much how grime was born. It's brought to light some notable MCs such as Dizzy Rascal, Wiley, Stormzy, Lady Leisha. It consists of loads of synths, heavy bass. Why I really enjoy the music a lot is because producing it just allows me to create so much. I'm not limited to one rule when I'm creating grime. Notable crews and MCs are Gendor, the Newham Generals, Boy Better Know. So that's grime. Drill, to my knowledge, it's derived from Chicago drill or New York. It's very skippy. It's heavy bass orientated, particularly with the 808. There is a certain place where you put the snare, a certain place where you put the kick drum, where you put your hi-hats. The hi-hats are very sort of like skippy. There is a difference between that and grime.
One thing I did want to touch on actually is the criticism, because drill, because it's a newer genre, has had a lot of criticism, and I think grime does tag along with that too. What are your opinions on that?
I'm not encouraging violence at all. I'm not here to encourage that. But what I can say is I can relate to the youth, because when I was young, our music, grime in my generation, when it was growing up, labels didn't want to sign it. People didn't want to push it forward. Raves got shut down, certain songs were banned. As somebody that came up in that era, I've got a lot of empathy and I understand where the youths are coming from. What we also have to remember is that there are tunes out there, not just in drill, not just in grime, but in rap as well, and hip hop, which are positive and have a positive message. The ones that portray a negative sort of view. That's the first side of my answer. The second side is these kids are talking about what they know, but I was fortunate enough to have the right people around me to push me forward to getting an education and leaving this side. What stuck with me was the music. Some of these youths, they ain't got that, and all they have as a positive outlet is their music. And so when you listen to what they're talking about their frustrations, they're talking about what they've been through, they're talking about what they have done, which I'm not encouraging, but I guess I can understand because they're talking about their frustrations. Me being that age before and having a 22-year-old brother who I'm trying to guide in the right way, I can relate to them. And so I do think sometimes, yes, in a sense, music is a contributing factor, but I wouldn't say that's the reason for why kids are going to jail. In our music, we're talking about what we've been through, what some of them have had to do, what they've done and what they're guilty for what they've done. And now they've got a better lifestyle because of it, and they're apologizing for the stuff they've done. Our music isn't the only music that has an effect on people. You've got metal as well, mosh pits, the likes of Marilyn Manson, Slipknot. It's an art form. So obviously I would always say people just try and read between the lines and understand that this is an art form, and some of these kids come from deprived backgrounds. And all they have to actually talk about how they feel is literally through a beat, through music.
That's a brilliant take. I completely agree with you, especially on the second half, because, the work we do, a lot of the artists and the young people that we work with, they're into drill music, and we will help them record that. And if we can, we'll educate them. But often it's their reality. We just have to try and stop them from doing it in real life. It's their reality. That's their reality. And the focus shouldn't be on stopping the music. It should be stopping the reality.
One other thing that I do tend to do is I tend to speak to the youngers and I tell them that, look, are you sure you live that lifestyle? A lot of youngers don't live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Some of the guys are doing it just to be cool. There's a lot of MCs or rappers out there that don't live half of the life that they're trying to portray. That I certainly don't. I'm avid. I say that straight up front. I say it to rappers that I work with grime and even with drill. I know drill is under scrutiny right now, but it's music. It's an art form, and I think you know, if it's changed a lot of lives. It's made a lot of MCs, when you listen to them, when you look at, like, you know, big notable MCs, Unknown T, Ambush. You know, you look at these guys. They talk about their life, of what they've been through, and then they kind of say, look where I am now, and they try and appeal to the youngers and make sure that they don't make the mistakes they make. And I think that's what I'm trying to do as well.
And that's to be applauded, I think.
Thank you.
Because it takes a strong, confident person to admit that they're not a part of that life, even in an industry that sometimes glorifies it. It shouldn't be something to be proud of, to be involved in a life of crime, but it can be if you used to be, and now you've actually come out on the positive end of it, and you've made an amazing life for yourself. And music can do that. A lot of the rappers started out that way, you know, with not a lot of money, in a life of crime. Absolutely. And you know, now they're rich and famous, and they're definitely not doing that anymore. So.
See, they don't need to. If they did it because they enjoyed it, they'd be still on the road doing what they're doing, but they're not doing that, which basically means that they want it out.
So going back in time now, where did your passion for music begin, and how did it flourish into what it is now?
I always say my greatest influence in music, it was my father. He was and still is a singer. He sings in predominantly Indian Bollywood music. My dad used to sing what's called Gawalis and Ghazals, right? So what these are is they are poetic, religious type music. You're talking, you know, the language of which these songs are sung. The best way I could make you understand is if you look at Shakespeare, the way that Shakespeare used to write, in the Pakistani Indian version of that. And I used to go to these gigs. I used to watch my dad sing. I remember watching my dad record his album, you know, when I was in the studio at like 10 years old. I used to watch my dad sing. I've listened to a lot of people since I was young. Michael Jackson, absolutely love his music. And then you go to sort of the Dr. Dre's, the Eminem, you know, the hip hop era. And then you've got the UK sound. So then you've got jungle, you've got drum and bass, garage, grime, you know, and then that's something that really spoke out to me. And so watching my dad, you know, record his music, you know, I was really, really interested in it. And then so from that point onwards, as I grew up, my dad saw me trying to mess around on the keyboard and stuff, and then he sent me piano lessons. So then there you go, I'm classically trained a little bit. I left playing classical music because I felt it was a bit too formal for me, and then I started to MC when everyone was MCing. You know, I wasn't a good MC. So my dad found I enjoyed doing that, and then he bought me a studio. I started making beats on that, and so I released some tunes in my school. People said to me, you know, your lyrics are good, but who made the beat? I'm like, I made the beat. They were like, yo, that beat is mad, it's dope. So then I realized that, okay, my place is probably production. My dad basically said, he advised me to make sure that I have something to fall back on. So I went away, studied my mechanical engineering degree. I worked in a few companies. My last job, I was the technical manager at the airport. I got made redundant. During that time, when we were on furlough, that's the time when I decided to fully take music seriously, because it was mainly a therapy for me, mainly to sort of get me off feeling negative and depressed during the lockdown. To kind of help me from falling off the rails and doing something stupid, I turned to music. There's this amazing DJ called Mary Grimes that played my first beat. That sort of gave me sort of the morale and boost I needed. Yeah, you know what, if someone likes it and it's played on the radio, maybe I should carry this on, and here I am.
It's amazing to hear that your dad supported you so much with music, because you know, we often come across people that aren't as supported with it, or they just have no one. They'll come to us for that support.
This is the difference, is that I've had a support system where I've had a male figure in my life, and so he understands where my mentality was coming from when I was young growing up. The poor kids are lost. Yeah, they don't have what I had. In fact, you know what I'm saying? So what I try and do is I try and take them under my wing, and I try and tell them, look, I hear where you're coming from. I know people that have been through what you've been through.
You mentioned earlier on that you were made redundant due to COVID.
I was having a chat with a lot of DJs just to get their insight as well as my own, because I think it's important that you don't just hear it from me, you hear it from a bunch of other guys as well. I'm in a producer collective called The Circle. We feel like the industry as a whole has been neglected. You've got shows, you've got all of that sort of stuff that was banned. I was speaking to one of my mates, Jeddah, and he was telling me the culture comes from DJ sets. For those that don't know, it's a set. A DJ would put together a bunch of beats. He would call up some notable MCs. He would go to a radio station. The MCs will come together and they'll have what's called a grime set. Okay, and each MC would say about 16 or 8 bars, right? And then what would happen is the microphone will get passed along. And this is good promo for the MCs. It's good promo for the radio station. It's good promo for the DJ. It's good promo for me as a producer, because I would give my beats to the DJ. The DJ would include that in his set. The MCs would hear it. And then there you go. There's business starts that way. When the set stopped, right, the whole industry came at a standstill. The kids that are growing up can't afford a studio. They look for, you know, spending £20, £30 an hour to go and record. They can't. And so now what do you do when I'm trying to produce a song and there's an artist I want to work with? He ain't got a studio and he can't go to a studio because of the lockdown. And then so obviously my work is stopped now. And then that's the frustration that it's having on the youths. Some of the older MCs that are more established, you know what I'm saying, they've got the money, so they can invest and get the studio. Being cooped up and isolated, it stopped their creativity as well. And so yeah, that's the impact.
And so, as a father of young children and a music creator, I'm sure you'll have young listeners.
Yeah.
What do you think the effect of COVID-19 is to young people outside of the music industry?
What used to happen to me was, you know, when I was looking to change jobs, I would throw my CV out there. I would have 4 interviews lined up within a week. By the end of those 4 interviews, I would have 4 job offers. Now I'm stuck for who I'm going to take on as a role. It went from that to having 4 interviews in a year and also getting rejected. The reason being is because there's people out there that are more experienced than me. And so obviously where job seekers had the pick of the bunch, the tables have turned. It's actually the companies now that have the pick of the bunch, because there's more unemployed people than companies that are seeking. Now, if me, a 30-year-old man that is struggling with all the experience I have, can you imagine what a 19-year-old is going through?
Thank you for that. So what advice would you give to the support workers who are working with these struggling young people who are interested in making music? How can they help the young person in their music journey?
Really try and understand who they are, because what it is they feel, because I was that young before, they do get angry at the world in some sense. And so obviously they feel like, you know, when you hear their lyrics, try and understand why they're saying what they're saying. You know, they'll probably end up listening to their idols that are up and coming right now. That's why if you're a prominent figure, you're going to have a lot of power to stop the negativity. Have patience with them. Really, they do need a lot of patience, man. And just, yeah, support them all they need, because some of these children, that's all they have. It gives them structure through their day. And so if the music is doing that, definitely encourage it. I'm an avid supporter in not, you know, promoting violence in any way, shape or form. So definitely, you know, do have a listen to their lyrics and try and advise them. But just remember that, like, that is their life. They do look to you for that support, and they do look to you for that sort of like respect.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
Last question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice directly for young up and coming artists wanting to pursue a music career?
I'm a 30-year-old man, and I've only just started to release music right now, and I've had the success. I'm working with some really big artists, and if I can do that, and I know it's corny and I know it's cheesy, but if I can do that, imagine you at the age of 20 years old or 19, you can really do a lot. I would say be patient with yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't give up. And I know that's corny. Whether it's an hour or 15 minutes a day, writing a song or producing something or practicing that dance move or whatever it is, I would say just dedicate some time to your craft on a daily basis at least, because it does add up. Don't chase the industry. The industry will chase you. It will show up once you focus on making something that you like and that you love. Everybody will show up.
Zimmer, thank you so much. You've given us a brilliant insight.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
For anyone watching this who wants to check out Zimmer's work, I want to mention that in the background of this segment, his tracks have been playing. And if you look at the bottom left corner of your screen, will be the track titles. Zimmer, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, thank you all for listening. Thank you for giving me the chance to sort of speak, Mary. And, you know, everybody just stay safe out there.
A is one of the young people that has been working with us on the Music to My Ears project, and I wanted to bring him on to talk to him about how music has affected his life and how COVID-19 has affected his life as well. Welcome, A. Hi.
Are you right?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good.
Briefly describe your life a few months before you got involved with Music to My Ears.
A few months before I got involved into music, I was still messing around with the criminal sort of waste stuff, and when I got into music, that's when I started putting my head down and trying to invest my time into something else.
So it gave you a positive distraction?
Yeah.
Awesome, I'm glad to hear that. Since you've been working with us, I know that you mentioned that music has been a big change for you. Has it changed any other aspects of your life?
When I started getting into music, it makes me more productive with my time. So instead of going out there hanging around with mates and stuff, I put my time into music, trying to make tracks for myself, upload them and see how far it takes me.
Brilliant. And I know that you've got a newly created CV, haven't you? So you're applying for jobs.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. COVID-19, it's obviously affected us all massively all across the world.
Yeah.
Has it affected the way that you create and enjoy music?
In a way, yeah, it might have, to stop me going places and interacting and putting people on the music with me. But I prefer doing it independent anyway. But other people, yeah, it's probably impacted them.
How do you listen to your music? Is it through streaming or is it because of COVID that it's been streaming mainly?
COVID.
Okay, so before COVID, how would you listen to your music?
Well, over the phone. But I'm saying, like concerts and stuff, wireless, you won't be able to go to stuff like that. That's a bit of a letdown as well.
Well, it's quite widely known that people have been using lockdown as a way to discover new hobbies and be really productive with themselves and their spare time. Do you think COVID-19 has resulted in more people getting into music?
Depends, because most of the people that was interested in music before COVID-19 would obviously do the music, but now they've been probably stuck at home. Music might be one of their hobbies they might have found, but there's other ones out there as well.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Do you think lockdown has given young people involved in the criminal justice system an opportunity to possibly think twice about what they're involved in?
Yeah, but at the same time, no, because COVID-19 has taken away loads of jobs and it's leaving people without money, so people want to make money either way. So I don't think that's going to help them, but they need money at the same time and not many places are hiring.
So you think it possibly could be actually creating a higher rise in the crime rate?
Mm-hmm.
And your mental health, do you think COVID-19 has affected your own mental health in any way?
It did for a little while, yeah, when I was stuck indoors, because I was trying to keep out of trouble. So what I did, I basically kept myself away from everyone else, trying to focus on myself. And it did impact me after like about 6-7 months later when I was indoors. When you started, I don't know, when you get that urge where you just want to go out, you want to do this, but you can't, you're stuck indoors. The same way as lockdown, and it just plays on your head a bit and it makes you a bit crazy. But that's why people need more activities like music to my ears and stuff like that, so they can go to it and interact with people.
Have you been tempted to go back to your previous ways because of COVID-19, because of the spare time? I know you said that because of the loss of jobs that a lot of people may actually be going into crime, but having been in it previously, have you ever been tempted to go back due to COVID?
Yeah, every time. Like I said before, the money, no one's hiring and stuff, so then you're thinking this is the only way that I can make myself money without working for someone else or working minimum wage and not earning as much. So that's why people, I think, go out their own way and do the same thing as they did before.
I think you've been brilliant. Since you've been working with us, you have made amazing progress. It is natural for someone in your situation with your challenges to be tempted, but the fact that you've actually resisted against them temptations, it should really be applauded. So well done. And thank you for coming on today, It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for listening to my segment focusing on the impact COVID-19 has had on the music industry and how it affects young people. Back to Ryan.
Thanks very much, Mary. And thank you very much to Grime producer Zim Zimmer, and also to A there. And obviously he was talking to you about his own experience of working with Music to My Ears. And that's, to me, that's kind of why we do this job, is because it's seeing young people being able to move forward, to see the journey that they go on. And we might not be able to help 100% of the people, but from the stats before, there are so many young people that we can make a significant difference to. And particularly as youth services have been struggled for funding over the past 10 years in this country, it's great to experience that good feedback and just see young people going from a place of where they were. Some of the young people I've worked with were heavily involved in crime. Some of them have been in gangs, have been in prison, in young people's prisons, or young offenders institutions, as they're called. And it's such a fantastic thing to see them go from where they were to then actually, wanting to move out of crime and move forwards into kind of having a positive, legitimate, law-abiding future. And it's great that, we can be a sort of small part of that journey. So, yes, so thanks to Mary for putting that great video together. So that's we've now got the last up to 15 minutes left, in which you will be able to ask some questions. I saw that there's been some stuff going on in the chat there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over now to Tim, who is the, if I just stop sharing my screen, who's the project manager, and I invite you all to post your comments in the, well, we've seen in the chat and also in the Q&A. I see that Lassie, I hope I'm saying that right, has been very busy chatting and put forward some questions. So over to Tim.
First of all, thank you so much to the team. A brilliant insight and fantastic content. And I've been doing this for 6 years now with Music to My Ears, and immensely proud of what we've achieved. The main point to put across is we're seeing real positive changes in young people from finding creative engagement, changes that they potentially wouldn't have been able to make, other agencies they wouldn't have been able to access with something as simple as this idea. We're more than happy to field any questions after this. You can email me at tim.page@catch-22.org.uk, and we can share any content. All of the video content is on our YouTube channel, or will be by the end of the day. So please feel free to use that as a resource as well. I've got some closing housekeeping stuff to do. We start back at 1:20 on the main stage. In the meantime, please everybody take the opportunity to visit the expo button on the left-hand side of your screen. There's lots of other brilliant stuff going on today. If you want to come back and see us in the afternoon, we'll be repeating this session then. Once again, thank you to my team, and thank you to all of the young people that have let us work with them. And we hope to see you all soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Just before you go, I've just seen that in the Q&A, we've just had a couple of questions there. If you go over to the Q&A section from Matt and also from Lassie. So I don't know who, I'll just read one of them out. So the first one is, it's grayed out. So here we are. Lassie, do you see in your service that the young people have been left without services that they would have needed, for example, for learning difficulties, neuropsychiatric problems, etc.? I don't know who wants to take that.
In short, yes. We tend to work with young people that are just not engaging in service. For whatever reason, it's a breakdown in trust, it's suspicion of statutory services. The time that they're working with us and the rapport that we build is often the first service or the first professionals of any type that they've worked with. And we do notice that there's been gaps in the care. It's almost as though we're working with some of the people that have fallen through the cracks in the care provision. The brilliant thing that we can do is gain that trust and slowly introduce other services, slowly introduce local police or education or CAMS workers or youth workers, so then they can access this wider support. And the positive onward referrals, Music to My Ears is often just step one for young people. We build that trust, we build that confidence, we give those resilience and coping tools, and we do the positive onward referral to services that can better deal with stuff like clinical needs, for example. So we do see it a lot. There is gaps in provision. There's always going to be, but as long as we're working as a professional community to try and fill those gaps, then we're kind of be on the right track. So I've also seen a question from Matt. Have you had any interest, support, funding from artists or music companies or labels? As of yet, there's interest. We work with some industry professionals, but certainly not ones with their hands in their pockets, it's fair to say. The outcomes and goals that we work to are often better served by being funded by a statutory commissioner, because then the focus is not just on the music, it's also on the care and the outcomes for the young people. However, if Virgin Records or Polydor or something wants to chuck a few £1 million towards the project, we'll always be willing to have that conversation. But it's well known, especially industry professionals. It's well regarded project, and they often will give their time to teach certain bits of industry. Like Zim Zimmer, we work with a sound engineer called Jerry Bryant, who's toured the world with some of the biggest artists, and he's happy to give his time to help young people understand some of the more technical parts of the project. But it's all kind of as guest speakers almost, rather than funders. And I think now, remember all of the closing stuff I said before, insert here, copy and paste, and we will be back at 1:20. Once again, thanks for your participation and thanks for watching, and we hope to see you all again soon. So bye-bye from me and the rest of the team.